Good afternoon. Welcome to Pittsburgh Land Bank Board of Directors meeting for Friday, July 12, 2019. Our first order of business is usually the roll call. Bethany will be here in a minute, but we can move to public comment. Members of the public who want to address the land bank can come forward. In particular, we're asking for public comment around the property reserve. And so those who are interested in the property reserve, have some statements or thoughts about it, please come forward. First speaker, please. First speaker, please. Is there any speakers? Seeing none, we will now go to the roll call. We'll ask Bethany to please call the roll.
Reverend Burgess?
Here.
Jamil Bay?
Here.
Paul Legger?
Here.
Diamante Walker?
Here.
Senator Wayne Fontana?
Here.
Councilwoman Cale Smith?
Here.
Councilman Lavelle?
Here.
Steve Mazza?
Here.
Wanda Wilson? You have 8 members. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. I want to first of all congratulate one of our board members, Diamante Walker, who has been promoted to the interim deputy director of the URA, and she will, by the end of the month, actually be leading that organization. And so we are proud of her. We are excited for her, and we are grateful to have her obvious expertise, professionalism, and insight as a member of this board.
Reverend Burgess, thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. All right, I think that brings us to the director's update. We have a legal counsel contract addendum. Bethany?
Yes. Thank you, Reverend Burgess. Yes, this board has been served by legal counsel Irene Clark since 2016, and we are asking at this time to extend formally her contract to sort of, at this point, co-terminate with the URA's memorandum of agreement for administrative services through December 31st, 2019. That's part one. That way, come the end of this year, depending on how the activities and the planning for the board goes for the rest of the year, they can then consider both contracts at the same time. And then part two is to add an additional set of services. Irene has served as more like general and public interest counsel for the land bank for the last 3 years, and as the real estate activities are starting to ramp up, we have need of some more specific direct real estate services. So a small increase to Irene's hourly fee specific to real estate services is the second part of the addendum to the agreement. So part one is to co-terminate on December 31st, 2019, and part two is to add real estate administrative services for an hourly rate of $150 an hour.
Questions about that, Diamante?
I actually have a question about the approval of the minutes. I don't know if we needed to do that first.
The order doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for pointing
yeah,
that out.
because I'm already out of order, but I'll come back to it. Questions about the legal counsel, Mr. Legger?
Just one question. What does that do to the dollar value of the contract?
It's an up to a shall not exceed amount, so it's we're not asking for an upper end change to the annual budgeted amount and the annual amount of the contract.
It's just a change of duty.
It's just a change, yeah, an
That's
additional
fine.
responsibility.
Any other conversation? All right, I need a motion to approve the legal counsel contract addendum.
So moved.
Need a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Let's go back to the June minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve June's minutes.
Motion to approve.
Need a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposers, nay. That takes
I'll
us
abstain.
to the
wasn't
abstention. That takes us to the Reclaiming Vacant Properties Conference announcement.
Yes, very briefly, this board, every 18 months, the National Center for Community Progress, which is the national think tank and advocacy and technical assistance provider for land banks around the country, hosts a conference Members of this board have participated in a delegation in years past in cities like Baltimore and I think Milwaukee maybe. So it's time once again, and registration is now open. The dates are October 2nd through 4th. The city is Atlanta. As this board thinks about participating in that conference, and or in the past, we have asked other delegates to come with us from the community, other stakeholders, other experts that we may want to participate as well. So if this board is interested, if this board would like to ask others to participate, now is the time to start moving on that.
All right, we'll have that conversation very soon. That takes us to the financial report.
There are 2 actions that'll be required, and they'll follow as Bethany's description of the finances.
Thank you, Director Legger. So you have in your packet, once again, the standard monthly reports, budget versus actual, the balance sheet, and year-to-date expenditures. So not a lot of activity. The same, we have several professional services contracts open. In addition to Ms. Clark, we have our website designer, our insurance advisor. So monthly activity was minimal, and you can just see the budget versus actual is income around $560,000, year-to-date expenditures at $116,000, which is significantly lower than originally budgeted. As Director Legger reminds us that we put together an aspirational budget for the year to make sure that, and should revenues not match projected activities, then we have to revise and relook at our activities, but we are well on track to be within our budgeted revenue for the year in terms of our activities. So then if you can turn to your balance sheet and see assets over liabilities, and then finally the expenditures year to date, and there have been a few monthly administrator approved expenditures, and then we have 2 months worth of the URA's monthly fee for administrative services for the board to approve today.
All right, so we need, I believe, first of all, we need a motion to accept, I believe, the financial review.
You can do them together.
Do them together, okay? I need a motion to accept the financial review and June expenditures. I need such a motion.
I'll move.
Need a second? Second. Any conversation, any other conversation? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Fundraising? Is there any conversation about fundraising?
No
Does
activities.
anybody owe us money that we haven't claimed yet?
We have an outstanding contract with the city of Pittsburgh that is a reimbursement contract. So we're about halfway into that reimbursement, and there's about another, I think, $80,000 that we have yet to bill for. And we probably are on track to bill for the rest of, we received one payment earlier in the year. We've now accumulated about the remaining expenses that we can then submit. Other than that, no.
I have good news. The good news is, as of today, 243 Meadow Street is in the Pittsburgh Land Bank ownership, so we own that piece of property as of today. Congratulations, we own it. All right.
That's the first one.
Now, there's a resolution for us to sign, for me, I guess, to sign a resolution of allowing the land bank to acquire property through bank foreclosures. That's the layman's version of it. Bethany will give you the more formal version of it.
Is it all right to defer to legal counsel?
For legal counsel.
Would you mind, Irene?
No, not at all. So what you have in front of you is a resolution to participate in REO, real estate owned acquisition programs. REO, real estate owned, refers to those bank-owned properties. So these are the properties that the banks out there have foreclosed on. And many of them have been interested in unloading some of that inventory and getting into relationships and partnerships with land banks and other community-based organizations to transfer these properties to those kinds of entities. So this is saying that the Pittsburgh Land Bank will participate in those programs out there, and one of them is mentioned in this resolution, the National Community Trusts, Stabilization Trusts, Real Estate Owned acquisition program. That's one program out there that we have applied for, the PLB, and we don't want to limit ourselves just to that program. So this is setting up an opportunity. The catch is, and the reason why we're doing this resolution is, these programs give very, very, very quick opportunities to grab these properties at a very good price, often donated. But it's like literally a 48-hour kind of turnaround. So this would empower staff to be able to quickly grab the moment and seize those opportunities and roll with the acquisition of these REO properties. Unless you wanted to add anything else, I think that's it.
A lot of these, either individual financial institutions that have their own inventories, or the clearinghouse, the National Community Stabilization Trust that Irene mentioned, those fast turnarounds are specifically for local government entities and nonprofit community-based entities. They usually refer to them as first look programs, to give us the opportunity to capture that inventory in our neighborhoods and in our communities before they put it on the private market. So being able to deploy and be as flexible as possible to take advantage of those opportunities. And it's not a 100% if the opportunity is available, you have to take it, so much as if you even want them to send you the opportunity to review. So there is a review process. We still have all of our acquisition review criteria that are in place. We just have to deploy it as quickly as possible. And our policies and procedures already allow us to participate in these programs, but the sort of signatory authority, the ability to make the decisions that would then be ratified by the board or the executive committee in short order, is really the shift or the additional policy request.
I think it's important, thank you. I think it's important that there is a review process, and the property fits. So I assume certain staff is assigned to that review process, because you don't want them just dumping properties on us that
Right.
we can't move, anyway. So I think the process is important.
Yeah, and as Bethany just said, it's not like you have to take the
Yeah,
properties.
exactly.
There is a due diligence.
So is there a front timeline they send to you or not? I mean,
I can give you an immediate example. They sent a property in the Troy Hill neighborhood to us for review and asked us to review it by the end of the week. Luckily, it was the July 4th week, so we were able to squeeze out a few more days. And what happens is we tour the property, we sort of do an initial vetting. If they have a title report available, they provide that information. They provide their financial package, so either what it would cost, or sometimes if it's a donation, it comes with a small amount of sometimes of financial support, because maybe it's a structure, but our plan is to demolish it. They might provide some financial resources there. They don't go a long way, but every little bit helps. And then we say, yes, we'd like to take the next step. And the next step just buys us like another week. So then we go in with our engineers, our construction staff, to do a further deeper analysis in terms of what it financially could cost. But from start to finish, it's usually about a 2-week window, as Irene mentioned.
property's lien free.
Well, typically, yes, but that could be one of our criteria. If it's not a free and clear title, we don't want it, which is why that title report is really important.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
So is there a process or possibly a list that we could see, like for District 2 foreclosures, because we had multiple foreclosures, over 200, since it's, subprime loan thing, that we could possibly look at? Maybe if we see something we could bring to the board? I don't know how the process works.
Sure. I'm sure every bank probably has their own inventory. There are ways we can produce lists using sort of ownership records from like the county, for example, just a report of as many of the banks and financial institutions that you can capture. The Stabilization Trust program, which is a clearinghouse for 10 of the more national banks, like that don't necessarily have physical presence here, like Deutsche Bank, US Bank, JP Morgan Chase. They have an online portal that shows their inventory, so you can go to the website and we can provide that as well to the board. So there's a couple different options that we can look into.
So to be clear, we want to focus on Sheridan, Crafton Heights, and Elliott. We have other things going on in other neighborhoods, but those are the three that have a lot of vacant homes.
Yeah, we want to see what's out there. I don't know. There are just so many. I couldn't even tell you. I'm there every day, going through there every day, but the multiple homes, you don't know who owns them, they're blighted, or somebody's walked away from, all those sort of things that are out there. Okay, thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion for us to participate, I suppose, in the property to approve the property resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. I believe that brings us to the Property Reserve Committee.
Thank you, and I should mention that Wanda Wilson had intended to be here, but had an emergency right before this meeting, so asked me to provide the report on her behalf. Short and sweet, the committee has met twice now and has a timeline, is well on track to meet the goal and what's written and agreed to in the tri-party cooperation agreement of December 31st, 2019. We have several committee members here today. And the timeline or the work plan is to front load a lot of the work to have draft recommendations to be provided for the general public input as well as this board to review come September, and progress is good. We actually had another meeting yesterday, a working session, and we'll have several more, probably take advantage of the opportunity, summer break in August break for a lot of the organizations to really dig in and get a lot of the work done.
Can we have the group come to the podium and identify themselves? Because I think the public would like to know, I'd like to know who's on there, the people that are here.
Sure. How many of you if those of you who are here from from the Property Reserve Committee would come and just identify yourself, that'd be great. Name and organization you represent, and neighborhood you live in. How's that? Those three things. Does that get there? That gets
Yeah.
to?
Very nice.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Hi everyone, Chris Sandvig, Pittsburgh Community Reinvestment Group.
You live?
I live in Morningside, Jancy Street.
Thank you.
I'm Kendall Pelling. I work with East Liberty Development Incorporated, and I live in Garfield.
Tim Dolan with the Urban Redevelopment Authority, and I live in Central Northside.
M.L. Meyer with the Urban Redevelopment Authority, and I live in Southside.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve and your participation in creating what we think is
So
a
I'm just going to
better-
point out that,
Kendall.
no, that we're going to, Steve and I are going to just talk and give a name for the West End because there's not representation from the West End. So we're going to talk about that and come up with a name.
That'd be great.
Recommendation.
All right. I think that takes us to the Communication Committee.
Yes, it does. I think we're going to, we ready to preview the website? So we have, I guess, a live version of what we're hoping the public can interface with that we're ready to show you.
Get you one.
This has been vetted by the Communications Committee. They provided it.
We can get a wireless mic. Is that on?
Those mics are on.
Those are on.
So it's pretty straightforward. The committee works to provide comment to the website design that the board chose right thought, and wanted a couple of really important components, that it be clean, that it be easy to navigate. That the work of the land bank specifically, access to the inventory and access to be able to meet the sort of, for the public to interact with the land bank around properties, those things to be sort of highlighted, lifted out front and center on the webpage, that there be resources, there be ample opportunity in places where the public can provide comment, they can connect, they can find the email address, they can find the list of properties, they can submit an inquiry. These were sort of all of the priorities of the committee. We have several committee members here, so I don't know if they wanted to add anything. But overall, it's a pretty straightforward website. It's not complicated, front and center. Right now, these are just placeholder properties. You will see 243 Meadow and a couple others as our inventory grows. But you can click on them, and you can take yourself to what will eventually be the property in general. Again, these are placeholders, but it'll take you to the online component where you can get more information. You can look at the inventory right there. You can submit forms. You can contact us. So again, it is really straightforward. It has a clean layout. It gives all the board and the staff contact information to meet the goal of being transparent around who is the land bank, who are the people in charge, who can we contact, and the major functions. So if and when there are business opportunities, for example, the board's search for an executive director, having that published right on the website. And I think with a few more tweaks, just some copy editing, catching some of the typos and making sure all the documents and hyperlinks work, it'll be ready to launch in the next few days.
Questions? Ready to go.
Looks really very nice. Congratulations on the Communication Committee for their fine work. Is there any legislative and regulatory updates?
I don't have any specific ones. Senator Fontana did have quite a list last month. I don't know if there's been any activity.
I
We
narrowed
have a
it
state
down.
budget.
I
Yeah.
narrowed it way down. There was some question about House Bill 896 and 897. Those bills are expanding the power of existing land banks to be able to enter into partnerships with private organizations, which is good. Now, that bill has been amended and it's recommitted to rules, so in the House. So we're hoping to see maybe that roll through in the fall. There was a question about, it also exempts land banks from transfer tax, which is reiterated when you have those transactions. So that obviously is a good thing. It also expands the eligibility of the criteria of the Neighborhood Assistance Program to include locations that where land bank has acquisition. So that's also part of it. There was a question about inheritance tax, but I don't know that falls in here or not. But I can pass it all along. But they reformed the inheritance tax and it amends to eliminate inheritance tax for children 21 years of age and under. It eliminates the inheritance tax. So we passed that. It's in Act 13 of 2019. I'll pass them along to you so you have all that. So that's all.
Again, it's a great gift to have your presence on this board to keep us apprised of state stuff and to be our advocate on the state level. I'm going to make two announcements and then call for a motion to adjourn. First of all, there will be no meeting in August. We're going to take August recess. Please enjoy yourself. Again, Mr. Lager told me privately he'll be on the north side and he'll be hosting a cookout at the same time of the next meeting. So if you are hungry around the 9th, going over his house, he'll be cooking out as he does every evening, I'm sure. The second of all, I want to announce that I'm going to ask our audiences to leave fairly quickly. We're going to have a quick executive session. I think we'll just meet right here. It's easy. We're already here. We'll have the executive session right here on personnel matters. So we're going to have a 5 to 10 minute executive session right after this meeting on personnel. All right. Is there any other things that come before this body?
Just one quickie, which I didn't think of until after we passed the REO stuff. I'd like to see a checklist of how we evaluate the properties that we take.
Yes.
And on that checklist, I would like to assure that we're not evicting anybody and we're not part of that process by the banks to throw people out of their homes.
Good job.
Yeah, and we probably don't want anything. We probably don't want any property that's
Occupied.
that's a
Yeah,
residence.
it could be renters, it could be.
Yeah,
any
we
number of-
probably don't want them. We probably don't want that because we don't want to be in that process of evicting.
City
people.
has that policy and we can adopt that
Yeah.
too.
So the board already has stated its priority for homeownership preservation very specifically when it comes to owner-occupied properties, but to your comment, Director Legger, that renter, tenant-occupied, potentially businesses that haven't paid their taxes are a different piece of the puzzle, and this board has stated that at least for the first several years until it sort of gets its legs under it in terms of transactions, property management, taking on and/or relocating tenants or business owners is not a priority. So we will make sure that's reflected in the documents, and the board has gone on record and stated those priorities. So staff and council are working hard to make sure that we keep that consistent through all of the documents that we create.
Good, because just because it's on the bank's list doesn't mean they're not evicting somebody.
Absolutely.
Anything else before the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. If you would just stay here, we'd ask our audience, we are adjourned, I guess. We'll ask our...